What is going on, everybody out there? It is MJT Football, and it is our favorite time of year. It is the time when it means nothing, but we're going to make strong, bold opinions about fantasy football takes. That'll probably just be crushed in the matter of 6 weeks when training camp starts and beat writers start hyping up players that you've never even heard of. I forgot to cue it up with Joe, but are you playing music, Joe?
Why not?
Do it. Oh, always good stuff. We appreciate you joining us here on MJT Football. If it's your first time here, please consider subscribing. If you're listening to the audio version, head on over to YouTube and type in MJT Football. We do a lot of live shows you can get in the comments. This is not a live show, pre-recorded, but Joe and I are going to be doing a 12-team full-point PPR mock draft. And I think the goal for me is just to start seeing where some of these players are going, because the mock drafts are different. And I don't know if you've noticed this, Joe, but when I do a mock draft on Fantasy Pros, guys go in different spots there because they have their own rankings and expert rankings and whatever else. But on this, there's also the people who do the drafts. They're kind of starting to collect the data of where people who are mock drafting on this site, where the players are going and they're falling. So I want to see where certain players are going. So I'm not going to draft a couple of guys that I really like just to see. And as they come up on the board, we'll talk about them.
So let's be honest, Tony. What we're doing here today is we're cheating a little bit. Me and you are cheating. We're trying to get a jump on the fantasy mock drafts before we do open up the mock drafts to everybody else like we normally do every year. We're trying to get that little edge so we can have the best mock drafts for the rest of the year.
Oh, I 1000% agree. Because what always happens to me is for at least the past couple years since we started doing a lot of these shows, is that I almost come over prepared. So like I'll get into some of these drafts with my friends who don't really check into fantasy football until like the second week of August. And then the draft is in the third week of August. And people just start falling, like one year, for example, it was such a shit show. Somebody drafted J.K. Dobbins right after he suffered a horrible injury. Like they just were so checked out on anything. They basically ran through an old math, a TMR cheat sheet. And they were like, oh, he's big on J.K. this year. I got to have him. It's like, hey, 4 days ago, this dude had a career threatening leg injury. So that wasn't a great pick, but we didn't roll back the draft for him either. They just made fun of him.
And like you mentioned, mock drafts don't mean anything, but what it does is it mentally repping you. It's giving you those reps, just like anything else. When you're doing reps, you're learning where people are going. You're finding depth at positions, and when you get to your draft, you're going to be a little bit more prepared. There's nothing worse than the guy who gets on the clock and he's sitting there running through a bunch of paperwork going, I don't know who I'm going to draft. And you're like, come on, dude, make your pick already. And you know what scares people the most, Tony, is when I'm up on the clock and I turn my pick in like that. Not only does it screw the person up who was in front of me, it screws the person up behind me who's like, if I'm picking number 5, number 4 is going to be like, wait, why did he pick so quick? And he took that guy. Did I screw up and take the wrong guy? And now he took him. And then the guy behind me is like, wait, he's done? Now I got to pick? You're screwing up everybody. I like the quicker, be more prepared, ready to go. You should already have 3 or 4 names ready to go every time you're on the clock.
So that's the worst for me. Like, let's say we get to round 6 or 7, and there's a guy that's on the top of my board. No matter what, this is the player I'm going with. It's perfect. I've waited. He's fallen to the right spot. And the person in front of me takes that player. It sends me for a tailspin. Then I'm just like, so I've gotten a little bit better at always having it down to 2 players that I really like in that spot. At the beginning of the draft, it's more of a shit show for me because I'm looking at it going, it's like when you go into a candy store and your parents are like, you can only have one candy bar, and you're like, oh my goodness, there's too many. I can't just pick one. I got to have multiples here. So that's why I don't love the beginning of the draft as much as I love rounds, 6 through 10 is usually those are the rounds in a draft where I feel like I make the playoffs in most of my leagues and the other people don't.
So if you guys are watching and you guys are like, why am I going to watch two guys just do a fantasy mock draft? Here's why. Tony and I are going to break down each time. And you're going to, without everybody being in here, it's just me and Tony and the computer drafting. So what we're going to do is we're going to break it down. We could pause it when we need to, and we're going to talk, and we're going to give you our mindsets and what you should be looking at. And like right now, I have the number 2 pick, right? And we already know running backs this year might not be the greatest first-round picks. You might want to go wide receiver heavy and go that way. But if I'm in the number 2 pick, Tony, so I have a good shot at one of these, any running back that I want or any wide receiver that I want. You're down there at number 10. Now you have to make the decision. Are you going no running back strategy? What are you doing? So we can, if you guys are watching here, this is why we're doing this. We're doing this to educate you more on it and show you what we're thinking, not so when you're in this position and you're with us, you know what we're thinking, and you could probably beat us more in fantasy if you wanted to.
Yes, and if it is so terrible what you're seeing, then you know what not to do. Yeah. So we're helpful either way.
You could be like, well, if that's what Tony's thinking, I'm way better than him.
Yeah.
I've seen it, but I don't know, Tony. Do you just want to go through and we just pick who we go, or do you want to go strategy or?
Yeah, we'll save the strategy stuff for closer. Let's have a fun draft. Let's get through this.
Here it is, guys. 13 rounds, no defense, no kickers. Everything else is on the board. It's 1 quarterback PPR league is what we're drafting for. So if you're wondering why there's no kickers or defense, it's because it's worthless to take those in a mock draft right now for you guys. So you ready, Tony?
I am.
So we'll start the draft. It's going to go pretty quick. And Jefferson was the number 1 pick. Just got me. Oh, you sneaky computer. Me and you have talked about Justin Jefferson, right? We've talked about. And then if you guys have ever were using the Sleeper app, so Sleeper has everything right here on the bottom for you guys while you're doing it. And the good thing, I went to Sleeper in my regular fantasy league. Sleeper's not paying me for this, but anything. But I went to Sleeper in my own fantasy league because it has its own built-in chat room and everything, so you guys can text on there. So here I'm looking at Justin Jefferson just went off the board. Now, in my mind, Christian McCaffrey made up everything that we were talking about. Everything that we questioned about him last year, he made it up, right? And we already know San Francisco is going to limit him, and they're going to try to keep him healthy throughout the year. Now, I like Jamar Chase. I like Cooper Kupp. I like the wide receivers. But I think at number 2, me personally, I would still go Christian McCaffrey just because I'm taking the running back that I can and the only one I can.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. So my picks.
I don't know why it's making the noise. How do I turn the noise?
Oh, brutal. I was taking Travis Kelce here. I had a whole spiel ready where it's like, if you can get Travis Kelce at number 10, you got to snag him. But apparently the AI was like, well, if you can get him at number 9, you also need to take him. So I think this is kind of why I picked 10 in this spot, was looking at somebody like Travis Kelce, but then also thinking like, if a running back like Jonathan Taylor, who's at the top of the board, fell, or Saquon Barkley or Bijan Robinson is at 10, I think that I would take a running back, one of those 3 running backs in this spot, because you got Diggs, Lamb, AJ Brown, Devontae Adams. All of those players might be there to come back around to me when I pick.
Well, are you going
to in the next round?
Pause it, Tony.
No, it's okay. Oh, this pick could not be processed at this time.
Yeah, because it auto picked for you.
Okay. Well,
you got to turn your auto off now.
Damn it.
So Tony, it took who you probably were going to take anyways. It took Jonathan Taylor, and then it took CeeDee Lamb for you.
How do I turn off auto? Oh, there we go. It's off.
So Tony, I'll try to pause it next time we're on your pick.
Yeah, no. So I was. That's basically what I was saying. Was that if I could get running back and then come back around and one of those 4 wide receivers was right there, that I would feel really good about that situation.
So here's a strategy, Tony, that I've been thinking about because I'm on the clock. You want me to pause it? Let me see if I can pause it. Can I pause it? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's pause it for a second because I know you still had a little bit more you want to talk. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh no, I just was saying that like the board is pretty much fallen the way that I thought it would. I thought that I had a chance for Travis Kelce at 10, but if any of those other 3 running backs make it, because 4 wide receivers go in the top 6. And I think that that's something we're going to see, where last year we didn't really see that. A lot more people were taking running backs. But Jonathan Taylor, I think, is a really great shot to be more what he was like in 2021, where he was winning people fantasy championships. Last year he had injuries. The O-line wasn't great. But if you could put him in the backfield with Anthony Richardson, that could be a very dynamic, like a dynamic running duo in the backfield right there that I don't think you can necessarily pass up when, like I said, there's still 4 number 1 wide receivers, Adams, CD, and Diggs, all there. And to me, CD is the best one.
What do you think about team number 9 right there? That draft strategy right there.
I think that this AI was built in the Show Me State.
It's like I've seen it. That's the guy who won my championship last year in my own personal league. That's what he did right there. He stacked that team up right there. So I'm on the clock right now, Tony. I already have CMC, and in my mind this year, Tony, I've been thinking this, and I know that I know I shouldn't go running back, right? But I've already got one. I'm going to resume the draft, and I'm going to show you something. And I've been thinking about doing this because I'm really high on him this year. I'm going to go Travis Etienne right there. Boom. The reason for that is I just got 2 good running backs. Both of them catch the ball out of the backfield. Both of them get do a lot of things for their team. And in a position that's hurting in fantasy football, which is the running back position, I think I just got 2 of the best.
Yeah, I'm not hating on this. I'm really a big fan of Travis Etienne this year too. I think he's the one guy in the second round to me where it's like he could end up being the number 1 back in fantasy. You know, the offense is going to be in year 2 with Doug Peterson and Lawrence building on what he did last year in a division to me that is got a lot of question marks, you know, like the Titans being the maybe second best team in that division when we're not even sure what's going on. Like I guess we don't know what's going on with any of the teams, but when we look at it from the outside, we think, are they rebuilding? Could they start the rebuild mid-season, like week 7 of this year, and just trade away Tannehill and Derrick Henry and just leave Jeffrey Simmons and Kevin Byard on an island? Like maybe they bail and just say, hey, we're going to turn the car keys over to Will Levis and see what we got there and move forward. But I'm with this strategy, Joe. If you can have those 2 running backs, I think it's great. Because
I've also been throwing in my head, if I was like later on, where kind of like where you are, I mean, you got Jonathan Taylor fell to you, power to you. you take Jonathan Taylor, but I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, what if I'm sitting at the end of this draft and I take, a wide receiver, say I'm team number 11, and I could get a Travis Etienne coming back around, and then I get a Gibbs. That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at running backs, and especially in PPR now, guys that are going to be catching those balls out of the backfield are a very high commodity to me. And I got 2 of them here, but I think we need to look at Gibbs to resume the draft right now, just to get back on where we're going. So I don't know, Tony. I'm looking at the wide receiver. I know I need a wide receiver, and I'm going to take a wide receiver. If you guys noticed, look, 3 quarterbacks off the board. That's what I kind of noticed a little bit more this year in mock drafts, that quarterbacks have been going earlier, which is weird, especially for us old school guys that we're used to waiting on quarterbacks. So here, guys, I have my choice at still some great top wide receivers in this draft. You guys know that the other ones are gone. I'm high on this guy this year, Tony, and maybe it's because I'm a old Raider fan. This guy's sitting right behind me, but I'm taking Chris Olave right here. A little bit early, but I like him, and I think he's going to have a great year.
Yeah, I like Olave or Devonta Smith in that spot. I just think there's a lot of potential for these two guys to build on what they did last year. Like, obviously, Olave was a rookie, and I think he's getting an upgrade at the quarterback position. And then Devonta Smith, what he was able to do playing opposite of A.J. Brown. Like, I was not convinced that he would still look like a 1A in that offense. And really, if you look at the Eagles, like, they have a 1 and 1A. Like, both of those guys are capable of being dominant receivers. And I thought he would really kind of take a back seat to AJ Brown, and I didn't really see that at all. So I was really surprised, and like, I guess not surprised at how well the passing game was, but just like how explosive the offense was. Like, didn't matter what it was. They ran the ball, they threw the ball. Like, even Dallas Goedert was a very good tight end in fantasy football last year when he was healthy. He missed some games, but points per game, he was pretty high on the list.
Now, Tony, Team 7 and Team 8 must not like you. This computer is like, you know what? We're taking all these running backs before they get back to Tony Tucker.
So I'm not even looking at running back because I'm going to go with one of the strategies we were talking about where it's a hero running back strategy where I probably won't even look at running back again for a minute because I'm totally fine with taking a flyer on Dalvin Cook, Cam Akers, Alvin Kamara, David Montgomery.
Hero running back for everybody that's watching. That means basically you take one stud, which is Jonathan Taylor, and now you're going to wait until later on. You're going to fill your team up with wide receivers, quarterbacks, whatever you get. And then later on, you're going to take one of these so-called secondary running backs or somebody that people have been passing on. Is that correct?
That is 100% correct. Because I think that you'll realize like there's a ton of value for running back in rounds 6 through 8. At least when the mocks that I've been doing, I think you're getting shots at 2 to 3 running backs in that area where you are like, hey, one of these guys just needs to hit. And I'm fine with that. And then you can still take shots later, on some other guys in this draft that might have more value than we would think in the preseason. See, this is the part, Joe, this is the part that's really frustrating to me because I wanted to leave this first 3 with Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews at this spot. And the fact that Mark Andrews goes in the middle of this round, that really hurts. So now I go and I look at the wide receiver position. Because I feel like I can wait on tight end, and this is where it starts to get a little interesting on what I'm thinking. I'm worried, Joe, about the quarterback situation with the 49ers. I love Debo, but now they got Christian McCaffrey and you got Mitchell in the backfield. Like, maybe they run him a little bit less, so we take away some of the fantasy value there. And then is Trey Lance going to be able to get Debo the ball the way Brock Purdy was?
But Debo said that he didn't like what he looked like on film last year, so he said he's coming out ready to go.
Well, yeah, I mean, Jimmy G was really the one who was feeding him, so it's probably a little tougher. But then we got my guy right here on the board, and I know a lot of people want to continue to bury this guy. I think the player that I'm going to take is, I'm going to go down a little bit, Joe. And this was somebody that I was going to reach on, but we can unpause the draft here. I'm ready to go. I don't know what time I have left, but I'm ready to go. And I'm going to take Calvin Ridley.
I like it. And I was actually thinking about taking Ridley earlier. I'll pause it right when we get back to your pick. Okay, so I was thinking about taking Ridley earlier when I took Olave, but I already took Etienne, and I have a hard time taking teammates on the same offense in a draft. Even if it is fantasy, I have a hard time doing it. So you guys already know that. There's a little secret about me that's out there that if I already have one player, I probably won't take a second player off that same offense.
Yeah, I agree with that to a certain extent. I just think there's certain offenses that I'm really okay double dipping in. Like just offenses like if you're telling me that Team 9 who has Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, like that's a good thing. I guess you're talking more skill position, like getting a wide receiver and a running back on the same team. Yeah.
I mean, quarterback is different. If I believe in the wide receiver or the tight end, I must believe in the quarterback too. And that's my thinking too. So there you guys go. You guys got that going for you. Little insight, little nuggets right there. And you know what, Tony? You got to take these nuggets because I'm a champ. I'm a champ, Tony. It only took 20 minutes before I pulled the belt out on you.
That's hilarious.
Ready to go?
Yeah, I am. I'm a little shocked that Joe Burrow just went at this spot right here.
Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 running backs taken off the board already, Tony.
Yeah, I am going to.
Or 5, did I say running backs? Quarterbacks. 5 quarterbacks taken off the board. Patrick Mahomes, Allen, Hurts, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow. That to me at the 3rd round, like the beginning of the 4th round, that many quarterbacks are gone. That's insane. But that's the way that football is moving. It's a more passing league, and fantasy football is just catching up to it.
Yeah, there's still there's not any running backs that really jump out. The tight end position, I'm still going to wait. I think I'm going to get a guy that I like there. Yeah, and so I'm going to draft Justin Fields.
Ooh, we took another Tony. So I said in our show, Mike and I did a fantasy talk show where we gave our top predictions of fantasy, where people would finish in fantasy. And I said Justin Fields would be the number 1 quarterback this year in fantasy football. And I was saying that not just because of passing, but because of what he brings with his rushing game as well. So there you go, Tony. And you know what, Tony? I'm going to fall right into your love, and you're going to love it because you already know who I'm taking here. I'm taking a quarterback too. I'm taking Justin Herbert.
So I'm going to be honest with you, Joe. If I was drafting in real life, I would have taken Herbert there, but I wanted to see where he was going to fall to. I think that Justin Fields got a massive upgrade offensively everywhere. He got, they added to the offensive line. They added to the running back room. They added, most importantly, to the wide receiver room. Cole Kmet in year 3. Hopefully he can build on what he did at the end of the season last year. Darnell Mooney's a playmaker. I think that this offense has a chance to be really dynamic if they let it happen. You have 14 seconds left.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to go DJ Moore right here just to cap off. And people are like, 2 Bears? Yeah, I think the Bears offense is going to be a little bit better this year.
Wait, 2 Bears?
Well, you took Justin Fields is gone early already, and then DJ Moore.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. I thought you meant on your one specific team. Are you fucking kidding me? Kyle Pitts is gone. This is the okay. So right now, this is like the most frustrating thing that's happened, and this is part of the waiting.
3 tight ends just went in this round: Hawkinson, Kittle, and Pitts.
Yes, but I was really convinced that Kyle Pitts was going to make it back to me at this point. Like I was 1,000% convinced that he would make it back around at this point. I think that Kyle Pitts has a chance to have a really good year. It has to be like if he doesn't have a really big year, the Falcons don't have likely a great year because that offense needs to hum. They need to run the ball. But they ran the ball last year. So what do they need to add to their offense is the ability to pass the ball. And I think Desmond Ridder is the guy to get that done. That really, really.
Even the computer snipes Tony Tucker.
But they did it. They did it in the last two. So the first round coming up to me, they take Kelce 1 pick ahead. The round 3 coming back to me, Andrews goes 4 picks ahead. In this 5th round, 2 picks ahead goes Kyle Pitts. Those were the 3 tight ends that I was kind of tracking in that area.
You're going now hero strategy. I don't know if you've seen Team 7. Team 7 is going running back.
Yeah, that's called the piggy bank pick setting right there. Number 7. That's the that or what's his name? Why am I blanking on his name?
That's a in the week 7, come trade with me team right there. I got the hots.
Trade Mageddon. All right. So in this area,
I just have the hots. My bad, Tony. I had to play it.
Nope. It should be played at least once a show. I think right here is where I can go flex or I can go RB2. And the flex receiver that I look at right here at the top of the board, Chris Godwin, is a really good receiver, but Baker Mayfield will be his quarterback for 4 or 5 games, and then potentially Kyle Trask could be his quarterback. So that kind of hurts me a little bit. Then there's Mike Williams, but I don't necessarily see a big enough drop-off if I wait. Alvin Kamara in the 5th round feels like a winner to me. And obviously, if I knew where Dalvin Cook was playing, he might be the pick in this spot. And then the other one that I really, really like, but I got burnt by him last year, was Cam Akers. I really like Cam Akers, but I was burned by him last year.
Supposed to be the guy again in Los Angeles, right?
Yes. Okay, I'm ready to unpause the draft and select Alvin Kamara.
Okay, you're up.
So
and Godwin went the pick after. Then Cook went. Jerry Jeudy, DeAndre Swift, you're back on the clock again. But the guy that you were thinking about, Chris Godwin, went right after you did it. Kamara and Dalvin Cook both were first-round picks a year ago. So, or maybe 2 years ago. But, yeah, you're good.
Yes, and DeAndre Swift is one of those guys that I'm talking about, and Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara in this area. If you can get one of those guys and you get a first one, you don't have to pause it, Joe. I'm going to make this one quick because I hate to break it to Mr. Bellinger, Daniel Bellinger Sr., but I'm going to take Darren Waller here because I think if you trade for him and you pay him that kind of money, Daniel Jones is going to be using him.
I'm hoping he comes. I'm thinking Waller gets a little bounce back. Anytime you get traded, Tony, doesn't it like piss you off inside a little bit? Like you're like, you want to come bounce back and you want to become something.
It does, but didn't it also seem like he kind of wanted to be traded?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. So I think he got what he wanted in that spot. But this is what I was talking about before, Joe, was like, look at the running back depth that's still available here. Javonte Williams, we don't know when he's going to come back. We don't know at what point in the season he might come back. But Isaiah Pacheco, David Montgomery, James Cook, I mean, Damian Harris is there, and I think Damian Harris could start the season strong, but he seems to get a hamstring injury every single year. A.J. Dillon, I think the Packers could run the football a little bit more this year. You got either Gibson or Robinson from their spot. Jordan Addison in the 6th, bro? Are you kidding me?
I just wanted to do it to get your reaction because I knew you were busy. And I was like, you know what? Let me take Addison and see what Tony thinks. I wanted to take Isaiah Pacheco right there. And I was like, oh, maybe he'll fall back. And he didn't. He didn't fall back around to me. He's taken off the board. But I was like, you know what? Let me take Addison a little bit early just to screw with Tony's emotions and see what you thought of.
Congratulations.
It's a good pick, right?
It's a great pick. I just Jordan Addison was my favorite wide receiver from the draft, and I think he landed in a tremendous spot. With the Vikings defense, when I'm looking at it, I know they have Brian Flores, but I'm just looking at all the young players they have on that defense with a pass rush. I'm not really sure where it's coming from. Like, if Danielle Hunter gets traded, I won't even understand why they wasted money on getting Davenport. Didn't they get Davenport from the Saints? Yeah. So, yes, I would not. I wouldn't understand what they're doing, but they just have a lot of youth on that defensive side. So I think they're going to be passing the ball an awful lot this year. Where did Madison go? Alexander Madison.
I don't think he's been.
He went in the mid-5th round. I think that's also. Oh, yeah. I think that's another thing. Like, if you're not getting running backs early in the 4th, 5th round, I think he's got a lot of value because he's had productive games in the past, and now that the backfield is going to be his, I think by the time we get to draft season, he's going to get hyped up into the 4th round. But we'll see. So let's see some of the players I liked that went away in this. David Montgomery. It's funny that Tyler Lockett, everybody tried to bury him last year. Like, he went undrafted in a couple of our 10-man draft leagues last year, and then he was just same old Tyler Lockett, like just same old baller as usual. Everybody slept on Geno and just let that kid go to the wayside. I think that I would like to get another running back, but there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3 running backs I like, so I can go pick the wide receiver of my choice right here. And I'm between 2 names, George Pickens and Brandon Cooks. And I think on draft day, this is something that if both of these guys here that I would really struggle with, because I want George Pickens to be amazing and great because he's fun and spectacular, but Brandon Cooks is just so steady. And if the attention is going to be given to CeeDee Lamb, and in this situation, I already got CeeDee in the 2nd round, so I'm not going to go with Cooks again. But I'm just saying, I'm thinking out loud of where I would be at. Like, let's say I didn't have CeeDee and I had AJ instead. I would be considering Brandon Cooks. We can pause the draft. I'm gonna select George Pickens at 7. And then, so now I have all of my starters technically filled in. And I think that this is where I can maybe take a bigger swing on running back, or no, I'm not going to do that. That would I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that yet. I don't need to do it yet.
Talking myself out of it.
Yes, I talk myself out of it. So in this spot, I'm going to go ahead and get I'm going to get
14, 13. Go ahead.
12, 10.
Tony takes Brian Robinson. I like that one, Tony. I'm
getting Brian Robinson Jr. Every year they do this thing where they hype up Antonio Gibson. They do it. And I do think he is going to have value, especially if Eric Bieniemy takes over and plays the offense similar to what they were doing. Like, if he has that Jerick McKinnon role that they had last year for him, we could see that being big time for him. I love the Jacoby Myers pick, wide receiver. He's somebody that I would love to have depth wide receiver. But I think Brian Robinson Jr. could have a big year. As far as like a lot of touchdowns, maybe 1,300 all-purpose yards, crack 1,000 yards rushing, another 250 yards receiving, and end up with double-digit touchdowns. Like that would be a monster year 2 for him, which would be great. Mike's boy, Michael Thomas, going right.
I got 12 seconds left.
Yeah, 12 seconds. You need to pause or you got this?
Nah, I think I'm good.
Love it.
Well, with Williams out right now, with Sean Payton coming in, he's going to want to establish a run. Why not bring somebody in? And Piron could have been the best running back on the Bengals last year. You don't know, with the way that Mixon was playing. So I think, and then I drafted Jacoby Myers with the pick before, so I brought in I get my Raider fix. I used to have a rule where I never took Raiders, or I never took my own team because I always wanted to play them. But I like Jacoby Myers. I think he's going to be all right on the Raiders, especially with it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. He fits in that system well. So, that's where I went. But P. Ryan should be getting the bulk of the carries up front. If he has a couple of good games with the Broncos, Tony, and I could trade him, and I got him late in the draft, I'm good with it. Give me a pause it?
No, I like it. I already know who I'm going to pick here. I'm taking Elijah Moore. I really went in on Elijah Moore in the 6th and 7th round last year, and now I can get him in the 9th round. He's just got too much talent to not be good. And it's every report I read is like he's putting in hard work and he's really gelling and he's showing out and he's just effective. It's like he can't, like he just feels like he's too good to fail, and so he can go there and I think and have a lot of success.
Elijah Moore, you hear that right now? Tony Tucker says you're too good to fail. Get your ass on the field and perform for him because he just took you right here in the 9th round.
I love it. Running back. All right, this is where I would have to have a little bit of decision. Can you pause it real quick? Because I am.
You can do whatever you want me to do, Tony.
So this is another thing where like I'm not opposed to, if I do have Darren Waller, drafting another tight end that I think is ready for a breakout season, right? This is what I was talking about where I talked myself out of it. I was like, 8th round's too early, but the 10th round, now like some of these teams, at least 2 of these teams don't have a tight end.
I don't have a tight end.
Yeah, so doesn't have a tight end. Team 2, Team 3 doesn't have a tight end. So 2 teams don't have tight ends. And I'm looking at Dalton Kincaid, but more importantly, Chigo Okonkwo for Tennessee. I picked him up in fantasy when I had some injuries last year, and he just always seemed to make big plays, like super athletic. So I think about potentially doubling up in a spot like that, and maybe if Waller does have some success and one of those guys is startable, if I can get a second tight end on, then I can move away. But there are some other tight ends I wouldn't mind putting on the end of my bench. So I'm going back to running back because I feel like this is where my team right now is currently the weakest. And I think that there is a lot of really startable depth left that I could flex-worthy depth I could draft there. But running back.
You have McKinnon on the board, who's been big in Kansas City later on in the draft. I like Khalil Herbert, but he has to share the backfield over there. Elijah Mitchell, what's going to happen with him behind CMC? You got Algier on the board, who was the number 1 guy, but now Robinson down there. So you got these guys, or Foreman, who is splitting the backfield with Herbert is still on the board, Tony.
So I know who I'm going to take. You can unpause it. I'm not taking any of those guys. I'm going to take
names out there.
I know. I'm going to take Damian Harris.
All right.
Damian Harris is in a situation where he only needs to stay healthy for like 2 weeks, and then I start putting him in together with a trade package of a player that I might want to get. Like I start looking around and it's like, oh, maybe Mark Andrews is slow in an offense, or Kyle Pitts starts off slow, and I try to figure out some way to say like, hey, Waller had a good week 1. Damian Harris has had 2 back-to-back touchdowns in back-to-back weeks. What if I sent you these 2 guys for Kyle Pitts? And I end up getting a tight end that I think has a chance to like really go off. Ooh, some quarterbacks flying off the board. I like Geno Smith going in the 11th round right here. Okay. Has it happened?
So I went back-to-back tight ends right there, Tony, and I reason for that is because I took 2 rookies, right, in Kincaid and Laporta. There was other people that I didn't mind, like I could have took right there, and I could pull the board up right there and show you guys. But there was other people I could have took, and I kind of like the guy from the Raiders and Myers too. But I was like, Kincaid should be getting a lot in that offense. Laporta, we saw what Detroit did with their tight ends, where guys were catching touchdowns there. Now they got a big guy like Laporta. I think they're going to use advantage of him with Jared Goff. So one of them has to hit, right, Tony? So why not later on, late in the draft, I'll take 2 of them, and if one of them hits, good for me.
Yeah, I think it's really risky to take 2 rookie tight ends, but yeah, this is why this is a mock draft and it doesn't count. But I would strongly advise not taking 2 rookie tight ends, because you'd be better off, Joe, just like making a pick there, wide receiver or running back, or even taking like an upside quarterback, like the quarterback that I'm about to take, and then you could wait.
Juwan Johnson, if I wanted to, right there. But at the end, I waited too long for a tight end.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So you take the rookie that you like best. Let's say you take Dalton Kincaid, but then if you have to wait, Juwan Johnson might be available. He could be somebody put on the end of your bench. Irv Smith, who's somebody you liked last year, if he could stay healthy for a second. Mike Gesicki,
in New England now.
Yes, could be good in with Bill O'Brien, a functioning OC there, and then you have Hayden Hurst. Like Hayden Hurst did perform well with the Bengals. Now he's going to Carolina. You have a young quarterback there, no proven weapons. Although I do think Jonathan Mingo is worth drafting. Like he's a receiver that I will draft in fantasy, because I think that maybe not week 1, but he's definitely going to emerge, I think, as the number 1 wide receiver in Carolina. So I would have used.
I already did it.
Yeah, I would have used that pick on, Sky Moore or something like that, or running back. But here's
Daniel Jones is off the board. I can't believe it. I was waiting to get him, and I can't believe he went 11th.
Wait, did my guy go and I missed it because I've been flapping my gums this whole time?
What are you looking for?
Where did Anthony Richardson go?
Anthony Richardson
went. Oh my goodness! In the 9th round?
Yeah, he went 2 rounds ago.
How do we not talk about this?
Yeah, I don't know how you missed him.
Yeah, no, I'm talking too much.
Well, Quentin, your rookie wide receiver, Quentin Johnson, went early in the round too.
Now that's a bad pick. I don't know what AI is thinking there. Okay, well,
that team 5, Tony, waited until the 9th round. This is how you used to draft right here. You waited on your quarterback. That's their number 1 quarterback that they took was Richardson, and then they backed him up in round 11 with Geno Smith.
Yeah, I actually really like that team's draft. Like, I think that Deontay Johnson is their bench wide receiver. Cam Akers is their bench running back. They got Evan Ingram and Chigo Okonkwo at tight end. quarterback, huge upside with Richardson, but a soluble starter with Geno Smith. Like team 5, I like better than the team that I'm putting together. That's for sure. Congratulations, team 5. Eat a bag of.
Team 5.
Yeah.
Not bad. Team 5 did good. There's a couple of trying to look around. This team number 1 is on a wide receiver kick right now.
Yeah. So
number 2 is probably my favorite. I'm just saying, not trying to be biased or anything. Team number 2, whoever runs team number 2, keep it up.
Wow. That's brutal. I thought for sure that I was like, okay, I'm waiting round 11. I'm going to take Anthony Richardson. If he comes out and he hits a home run in week 4 or 5, somebody's gonna be willing to trade for him. So let me go to wide receiver here, and
so I'm gonna tell you right now. We got 3 picks left. You got 3 picks left. I got 2. Yeah. Guys, I always leave the draft with 2 quarterbacks. Me personally, even if I take one with my last pick, I always leave with 2 because injuries happen in this league, and I don't want to be waiting on the waiver wire for somebody else. And like Tony said, he was going to take Anthony Richardson because he's looking for somebody with upside. If you want to take a guy with upside, that's the time to do it. But I always recommend, personally recommend taking 2 quarterbacks because you've seen it before. A guy goes down early in the season, and now you're scrambling. Might as well have him on your bench already if you have the spot for him.
All right.
Especially like you, a guy like you, Tony. You have Justin Fields, a running quarterback. You know, I'm not saying take him now, but sometime you're more likely looking for a second quarterback.
Yeah, you can unpause here. I know what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna take Elijah Mitchell. We got a little bit of
Darnell Mooney. I keep forgetting about Mooney.
Yeah, injury. I was flirting with the idea of drafting Darnell Mooney there, but I've already made my investment in the Bears offense, which is Fields. That is not an offense that I'm willing to gamble on to double dip in. The offenses that I am willing to double dip on is like Kansas City, the Chargers, the Bills, like those offenses. I'm willing to get in there again. So I got 30 seconds left. And I'm looking at getting a little insurance. Oh, he already went. He went right before, so I'm not. I'm gonna go Jonathan Mingo.
Okay. Man, Jared Goff just went. Dang it, Jared Goff went that late, Tony.
It's great. I think Russell Wilson's draftable. I was gonna draft him with my last pick and do a big speech on it. So the other person I was thinking about getting there over Elijah Mitchell was Kendre Miller because I did draft Alvin Kamara. So if I'm in a draft and Kamara is essentially, I'm assuming going this late because people think that there could be a suspension. If there's not a suspension, why would he be going in the 6th round? So if I'm drafting Kamara, I think that it's advisable to draft Kendre Miller. I like the Dobbs pick there. I think that's...
Well, Jordan Love has to throw the ball to somebody, right?
Yep, and I think he could definitely emerge. I read a report today. It said Matt Canada said we can't keep this Jalen Ward guy off the field or whatever. It's like, okay, all right. I'm interested. I want to see how that works. Can we pause real quick? So I'm looking. I'm just looking through at like the wide receivers that are still here. I think
I could pull it up for people looking at home. Wide receivers. Okay. What are you looking at?
I think that it's like really here. There's just so many different like huge flyers to go with where it's like which one of these guys is is gonna step up and get targets, because like Zay Jones is now in a very crowded wide receiver room. Michael Gallup, it got more crowded there. Nico Collins, rookie QB. DJ Chark, rookie QB. Jalen Hyatt in a super crowded wide receiver room. So like I look at it, it's like I'm not sure which one of these guys that I would really throw a dart at here. And since this is my last pick, I'm going to give love to either tight end. All the QBs I thought about drafting in this spot, they're all gone. Trey Lance is still here. I think if he gets named the starter, this won't even be a question. He'll be drafted way earlier than this, so it won't matter. But I'm going to go to tight end, and somebody that I talked about before and I think is going to have a huge year, and I mentioned this on a show previously, for breakout players this year is Juwan Johnson. Juwan Johnson is like the only offensive player, like Penei Sewell, Herbert, and Juwan Johnson from that Oregon team. And Juwan Johnson was a wide receiver who got converted to tight end. That takes a couple of years for that to like really take over. And so I just think that like if you can get Juwan Johnson at the end of your draft, look at what Carr did with Waller after he made that conversion. Because Waller started converting to tight end with Baltimore, I think. And then when he flamed out there, personal reasons or whatever, and he caught on, I remember the first time I ever heard about him was from, who was I listening to then? Probably would have Matthew Berry, right? Like that summer was like, he's like, everybody's got to keep an eye out for Darren Waller. He's going to be the steal of the draft. I had 3 leagues. I drafted him at the end in every one, and he ended up like putting me easily in the playoffs in a bunch of leagues. I was able to trade the tight ends or drop the tight ends that didn't work for me in those leagues. Like I think even in one of them, like I had Gronk and I was able to trade Gronk for a running back. So it was like, if I can trade either of these guys, Waller or Juwan Johnson, because they're both playing in a top 5 to 7 level at tight end, then at a scarce position, I think that's the thing that I learned last year was like taking dart throws at positions where there's not going to be a lot of depth on the waiver wire, running back and tight end. Yeah. Like we're always going to be able to find some wide receiver that emerges or whatever. Like you'll be able to find a replacement at that position. But taking dart throws at positions of scarcity, if they hit, they just pay more in a trade.
Yeah, say Juwan Johnson finishes as a 3rd or 4th best tight end this season, and you got him in the 13th round, you just dominated this draft.
Yeah, because at some point in the season, when there's injuries or bye weeks or whatever it is, like if you have 2 healthy tight ends on your roster, you're going to get trade offers. And you might be able to sneak in and get one of these, somebody might be willing to move Amari Cooper. They might be willing to move Deontay Johnson or a wide receiver of that caliber. Depends on what their running back situation is like, but you might be able to go get Cam Akers or, a running back that you can start because the tight end is balling out that much. I don't know. I'm excited. This is all just so meaningless and nerdy and like so speculative. Like we know nothing about what's happening. Like one of the things I love listening to is these people who are like, oh, I break down a ton of tape. And I know like people either hate Kellen Moore or they love Kellen Moore. And so when I listen to all these Chargers podcasts, either the Chargers are throwing for 7,500 yards this year or they're going to be kicked out and put in the XFL. Like there's no in between. There's no like, hey, the offense could just be really good. It either has to be the greatest offense you've ever seen or it's trash. And I don't know. People are crazy because it's the middle of summer and we miss football.
Yeah. I don't care. I'm taking Justin Herbert. If I get a chance to take Justin Herbert, I'm taking him because he's shown that he could throw the ball, sling it around, no matter who his wide receiver. As long as he stays healthy, I like him. And I think I like Kellen Moore. I mean, I don't know why people bash Kellen Moore because it's Cowboy fans basically going, oh, he's no good. But look at the guy's record. He's had top offenses every time he was calling plays. So I'm good with him.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited. I think it's going to be fantastic. So let's just for the end of this draft here, bear with us. Another 5 minutes. We'll make it quick. I already picked my favorite team, number 5. So I'm going to just go for the audio version, recap my team real quick. My running backs, starting Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara, and then my starting wide receivers are CeeDee Lamb, Calvin Ridley. I got Justin Fields at quarterback, Darren Waller at tight end. Flex position players are probably going to be George Pickens, Brian Robinson Jr., Elijah Moore. And as far as the depth goes, Damian Harris, Elijah Mitchell, Jonathan Mingo, Jawan Johnson. Rounds out my team. My favorite team when I was looking at the board was the team I mentioned before, was team 5, where they have Cooper Kupp, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Amari Cooper as wide receivers. Running backs, I still think they did really good. Ramondre Stevenson is another guy that could finish inside the top 5 running backs, top 7 running backs this year. Alexander Madison, another guy that could finish inside the top 12, 10 with just opportunity, right? And an offense that's has a lot of receiving weapons. And then they add depth with David Montgomery, maybe Rashad Penny hits, or Khalil Herbert steals the job in Chicago, and Deontay Foreman just in case. Wait, I just switched over to the wrong team. Sorry, none of those players are on the team. Madison, Akers, Stevenson are the running backs. Cross-eyed.
Like, what is going on here?
Yeah. But then they at tight end again, I like Evan Ingram playing on the tag, I believe. I don't think they ever worked out a long-term deal for him, so he's got something to prove. And they take a big home run shot with Anthony Richardson. They back him up with Geno Smith. Geno Smith was a top 10 fantasy quarterback last year. Broke records for the Seahawks passing. I know we all think Russell Wilson is already a Hall of Famer, but Geno Smith got to start their one season and started hanging his own numbers in the record books. And then they took a shot on Ezekiel Elliott. I don't think Zeke will be there in the 12th round once he lands on a team, but that to me is a good pick. And then they took Rashee Rice. Maybe Rashee Rice takes over the Juju Smith-Schuster role in case KC, where he gets, 75 slot targets, 80 slot targets in that offense. Big body over the middle of the field, dominating. So I don't know if you were able to identify another team's draft that you like, and then recap yours for the audio version, Joe.
No, I'm looking around. Every team is pretty good. There's like a couple teams that I'm looking at, but I think if you were going to say the second best team, it would be number 5. I think number 5 did a great job. Number 7 just stood out to me because of how many running backs they took. 5 in a row. They took Barkley, Jacobs, Breece Hall, Gibbs, and Miles Sanders all in a row. Then their first other position player was a tight end, Dallas Goedert. That just stands out to me. It's a funny one, but I'm not saying that's the way you should go, but it's just one that stood out to me. In mine, you already know, I took Christian McCaffrey and Travis Etienne with the first 2 picks. So those are my 2 running backs. Little wide receiver, that's where I'll be a little hurting, where I took Chris Olave, DJ Moore, hoping that they have good seasons, and Jordan Addison would probably be in my lineup, with Jacoby Myers probably be my flex. Right. I got Justin Herbert at quarterback, and then my tight end, I'll probably start Kincaid over Laporta, but I had took 2 tight ends. And then to round it out, I got Matthew Stafford as my backup quarterback, Romeo Doubs, Lamar Pirine, James Cook from Buffalo, and that's it. So I think I have a good mixture of young and older players, but I think my running back position would be my strongest.
Yeah, I think running back wise, people are going to be calling if James Cook or Samaje Perine, can take off, can carve out a role for himself in Denver there. I'm going to talk about team number 9, and then we can go, because I think team 9 they completed the strategy that I was kind of going for in my head to start the draft. Now, the running backs are James Conner, A.J. Dillon, Devin Singletary, who's now in Houston, and then Jeff Wilson Jr., who's in Miami, and who could end up being a special teams guy, RB5. Like, it doesn't matter. They took a shot on Jeff Wilson Jr. I probably would have went with a rookie in that area, but whatever. Anyways, the reason I like the team is you get Travis Kelce, the number 1 tight end, Patrick Mahomes, and right there you're looking at having a mismatch every week. But then wide receiver, you go DK Metcalf, DeAndre Hopkins. I would have drafted I would have probably drafted Debo over D-Hop, or I would have drafted Terry McLaurin or Keenan Allen over him, but doesn't matter. Wide receiver. And they come back with Drake London, Lockett, Gabe Davis, Tyler Boyd. Like, they're loaded at wide receiver to the point where they can survive injuries with that roster. They're going to have every week, they're going to be starting 3 wide receivers that are going to be putting up crazy points. Like, that offense is going to be nuts. All you need you just need Connor or AJ Dillon to really hit and then end up being top 15 at the position. And then you'll be able to play the waiver wire. You hear one camp report about, this guy is moving up the depth chart. Okay, bye, Jeff Wilson Jr. I'm going to go pick up freaking Tank Bigsby.
But Tank Bigsby already got drafted.
That's why I said his name. I was trying to think of something that didn't get drafted. But, Devon Achane, did he get drafted? He's on the Dolphins.
Yeah, he did.
Goodness gracious, Joe. All right.
We're playing against some great guys in this draft, okay, in this mock draft. Guys, this is just the first of many mock drafts.
I got it, Joe.
What up?
Jaylen Warren, the guy that Matt Canada said they can't keep him off the field.
There you go, Pittsburgh. Just to let you guys know, we will be doing a lot more mock drafts. I might even do another 12-hour mock draft marathon. I don't know. I'm crazy like that sometimes, Tony. Crazy. It just depends on how it goes. But you guys can join us every time that we do a mock draft. We usually send out a link to a lot of people. So if you guys are interested, put in the comments, I'm interested in doing a mock draft. We'll get a hold of you, or we'll find a way to get a hold of you. And you guys can come on and be one of these top 12 teams on the board with us and mock draft with us along until you're ready for your season.
I don't normally do this, but I'm going to throw some love out there for Zamir White. Josh Jacobs tweeting bad for business or bad business today.
Well, Zamir White gained some muscle this offseason, just to let you know.
I don't even know how much more muscle he could gain. He was already like a superhero.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
I wanted more out of him last year, and they didn't give him the ball enough. So we'll see where that goes. But there you guys go. MJT Football. No M today. Mike is dealing with some things, but when he'll be back, he'll be mock drafting with us. Let us know how we did in the comments. Anything else, Tony?
No. This is awesome. This is fun. I'm glad I can tear this thing up and throw it away. Wasn't my strongest effort, but I had fun.
Are we talking strongest, Tony? Are we talking strongest?
Audio version. We are looking at a juiced up Daniel Bellinger.
Yoked up. We're not saying juiced up.
We can't for legal reasons or what?
I talked to our legal department and they said you can say whatever you want, Tony. You know why they said you can say whatever you want, Tony?
Because
I guess you were looking in the mirror and they caught you saying this.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
So,
I am. What a great way to end the show. Play the music.
All right, guys. See you guys next time.